data as we know it has been a passive, defenseless participant in your systems that are inherently vulnerable. And now all of that has changed. So how does Sertainty transform a business's approach to security and data?
Thank you very much for that question. To date, data has been inert. Sertainty has infused a nano-virtual machine on top of a file/data no bigger than 50 kilobytes. This enables the data itself for the first time to have intelligence. That intelligence creates the opportunities to get the data itself to be a participant in its protection, as well as for the users to infuse compliance, to infuse governance into data itself to give it some sort of a life cycle. This, I think, is going to be obviously extraordinarily beneficial to corporations looking to protect their data in anywhere, as well as to figure out ways to monetize data itself through various workflows, and obviously figure out the attributes that can create those benefits.
Right.
And this is a novelty, and this is the invention and the innovation.
Definitely. Now, security can no longer rely solely on complicated perimeters. So how does Sertainty deliver empowered data to their customers and ultimately keep a business's applications, networks, and operating systems secure?
First of all, empowered data itself is agnostic to networks, to systems, and to applications. So ultimately, when we wrap ourselves around data, there's a low latency, and the data itself is seamless to the user. What is interesting is that data itself now has the ability to act and react to its surroundings. That is extraordinary because data itself now has value. It actually becomes an asset. And this is something that will enable corporations that are working with us to realize data in a whole new light.
Now, security has become a major focus for CIOs with the instances of malware and hacking increasing. So how can CIOs and cybersecurity leaders stay one step ahead?
It's a very good point. They're locked into a regulatory environment that's very rigid. So ultimately, they work through defense in depth orientation. That itself is not producing the results because you're getting breaches which are much more heavier in terms of the damages, and they got to really figure out how to kind of segue out of it. The way to do so is to begin to embrace data as a new perimeter, or think out what is a data-centric solution. We enable those CISOs and so CIOs to begin to think differently and be very innovative in their response, but ultimately be able obviously to kind of turn the offense to defense balance in favor of the defense, which is extraordinarily taxing on major corporations.
So cybersecurity attacks are becoming more frequent. So how can C-level leaders not just be reactive, but also proactive when it comes to securing their businesses?
Well, these, the CC level, they have to be much more accountable because the market is holding them accountable, the regulatory bodies are holding them accountable. They have to begin firstly to orient the workforce to be much more cognizant of any phishing expeditions or any social engineering. Second to that, they have to figure out where it would actually drive value in terms of enabling full security through data, which mostly resides outside the corporate networks, and ultimately how to kind of utilize the data itself to monetize, obviously, the data that is embedded into the systems, into their so-called devices and so forth. We enable all that to happen, and it's just a matter of getting, obviously, the people upstairs to begin to appreciate the ability of a data-centric approach to enable them to have a much quieter life at the end of the day and potentially reduce their risk and reputation to their brands or their corporations.
Sure. So what does the future hold for Sertainty as this technology landscape is ever evolving?
Well, we have a hub and spoke strategy that effectively deals with the world of IP protection, the world of fintech, the world of logistics, and the world of critical infrastructure or critical data or mission critical data. At every level, our plate is overflowed with inquiries. Our pipeline is basically backed up. We have so much opportunities to make a dent, to make a mark. But the realization is that data-centric is becoming obviously ways to defeat the so-called escalating breaches and the various state actors and their proxies, which ultimately are probably 70% behind the breaches. So we have a way to actually defeat a state actor using what we have. that resonates itself obviously in many different ways and to many different spokes.
Sure. So now we're excited that Sertainty is attending our Transformational CISO Assembly. So what are you looking forward to most about this program?
Firstly, because this I think will be our fourth event, really part of the mill. The CISOs know us, they already understand that we are a viable solution for them to segue into as far as a data-centric approach. For us, it's the combination of our messaging. It's a way for us to kind of figure out market penetration tactics, to get real-time feedback, to obviously how we scope things and things along those lines. So it's very, very critical to our operating year to be part of the Millennium Alliance event because it enables us to understand what the market actually wants.
Right. Now, what would you say is the benefit of attending such an intimate C-level event?
Well, it's a premium event by invitation only. So you really get to speak with some of the leading thought leaders on one end, but also those who actually are making things happen and figure where you kind of position yourself into their so-called industry and how to maybe potentially penetrate their companies as well and hopefully be a client to theirs. So this is a good thing. This is very, very virtuous.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
It's my pleasure and I hope to be back.